So, this other day, I was shopping at Walmart about 2.5 weeks ago. I was in the clothing area and noticed that a dude was acting kind of strange. He was popping his head around the corners, seemingly waiting for something, then cautiously proceeding. It was about 7:30 and the place was pretty busy. I eventually noticed what he was staring at and following. An attractive younger woman who was just minding her own business and shopping away. The creep was clearly following her, and he seemed to have no items to purchase. Because there were so many people around, I really didn't feel like the young lady was in much danger. That is, until I paid for my stuff and walked out a bit behind her and noticed the dude still following her. She was about 40 feet in front of me, and the creepy South Asian man was about 20 feet behind her. His head was still transfixed on her. The parking lot was busy but spread out, and I saw her happily loading groceries into her trunk, oblivious to the fact that she was being followed. The creepy South Asian guy walked to the car parked beside hers and acted like he was fishing in his pocket for the keys while watching her. Clearly, this was not this guy's car, and he was definitely up to something. I walked about 5 feet behind his car and asked if I could help him in a somewhat accusatory way. The look he gave me was that of utter shock, then utter hatred. It gave me the chills. Dead, angry eyes. He didn't respond and walked to the other direction, turning to face me several more times as he sauntered off. I asked the girl if she had noticed that he was following her. She said, "I saw him in the store, but didn't really think much of it." I then said, "Did you see how angry he was when I interrupted whatever he was up to? I think he's a pervert." She just half nervously laughed and thanked me and then drove off. Yesterday, on the news, I saw that a South Asian man, the same one from that parking lot, had forced a woman into her car and sexually assaulted her 2 blocks from that Walmart at a superstore. Come to think of it, if I hadn't been there for that young lady, perhaps the ending would have been very different. So, a few weeks ago, I was in Walmart with my grandma, and we were walking around and shopping and stuff, doing your normal Saturday morning errand run. While walking around, I had begun to notice an older man in a few of the same aisles as my grandma and I. The man seemed to be in his late 30s, or perhaps early mid-40s, kinda scruffy, and clothes that looked like he'd been working. I thought nothing of it since it was Walmart, and it wasn't that big of a store. At one point, my grandma asked if I needed any new bras. For those of you who don't know, Walmart sells $3.98 bras, and they're awesome. I told her that yeah, I would need one, and so we went to the ladies' underwear section of the store. My grandma went to look at the bras, and I went to go see if they had any matching underwear when I noticed the man again. I walked down to the sock aisle and didn't see him, so I slowly made my way back to where the thongs and other stuff were. I was minding my own business when I heard someone walk behind me. I figured it was my grandma, so I partially turned to ask how many pairs I could get, but she wasn't behind me. I looked around and saw that the guy was at the end of the aisle. Whatever, I thought to myself, maybe he has a wife or a girlfriend and was looking around. I quickly went back to my own little world looking for underwear. I looked around for another minute or so when I felt a presence behind me. I looked to my left and saw a little bit of my grandma as she was being obscured by the rack while she was looking at nightgowns. I decided to stare straight ahead since maybe someone taller than me was just looking at the underwear that was over my head. I felt someone kind of press against me. Then I heard the breathing. It was like heavy breathing, as if someone had just had sex or something and was calming down. I turned on my heels to see the guy who had been following me with his hand down his pants, obviously fondling himself. I literally screamed, "Nanny!" and the guy sprinted away. I told Walmart security, of course, and they told me that they had no authority to do anything about it. Now, every time that I'm in that Walmart, I always get a bad feeling, as if something,
or someone was behind me.
So, this took place only a few months ago, sometime in early July, I think. Anyways, my friend was over and we had to make a run to Walmart. It was about 9, not too late, but generally not a time I would like to be out. But given that I was already pretty much grown up and I had already graduated, I was 18 and my friend 19, my mom let us go. A quick plan to get garbage bags, something that should have only taken 5 minutes tops, ended up taking half an hour. We got in, we got the garbage bags, and walked around for a bit. We just kind of fooled around, browsing and talking, doing whatever. During this time, I noticed that my friend began acting kind of weirdly, but I brushed it off. We were standing in line, ready to check out. My friend leaned in close and said, "Do you see that guy?" I glanced up, but didn't know what she was talking about. I still feel very guilty about this, for being too dumb to notice. We started walking away after checking out. Buying only garbage bags doesn't take a lot of time. As we were leaving, she began explaining. There was some dude, she said, that had said hello to her, and being polite, she said hi back. We then saw him at the checkout. Both of us, naturally, brushed it off. We got in the car, and we saw him in the parking lot. Again, no big deal. Deciding to play it safe, we decided to wait until he left. Turns out he had a couple of guys with him. They pulled over on our left, leering at us through the car windows. It was nearly dead silent in the car, but I could swear you could hear our hearts frantically beating. Even typing this up, I still get the panic. The car of guys quickly sped over, parking right next to us. My friend immediately floored the car, pulling in reverse and speeding out of the parking lot. The guys followed. We honestly thought we were going to die, whether it be from going 80 miles per hour or by a group of creepy dudes. We quickly sped out of there, making a turn onto some random road. The car of guys directly behind us at all times. At one point, they ended up passing us and waving before pulling into a church parking lot ahead and turning around to get behind us again. At this point, we were still going 80 in a 35 zone and getting closer to my house. Neither of us wanted to lead the guys to our homes, so we thought fast. Near my house, there was a little store where you can buy cigarettes, alcohol, and candy. Basically, it was a gas station without any gas pumps. We hauled ass to the back of the store, parking and moving to head in through the back. One of the workers was outside in the back and approached us. All we had to say, and had time to say, was, "We're being stalked." Luckily, the guy understood exactly and started to go up front. We peeked around the corner, and lo and behold, the group of guys were there around front. My friend and I proceeded to sneak in through the back. My friend ducked into the deli station, and I hid out on the right side. There was a female worker in the deli, and my friend made a signal for her to be quiet. The female worker pretended we weren't there at all. A couple minutes passed, and we heard the front door open. I peeked around the corner, and it was one of the guys. I hid in the back, heart racing, hoping that he didn't come back there. Finally, a few more minutes passed, and the guy worker from before came in through the back and told us that the guys were gone. He chewed them out. Oddly enough, they flat out admitted to stalking us. When the guy worker pretended to be a family member, they quickly backed off, claiming they were only getting beer. We learned from the female worker that those guys were regulars and were always going on about creepy and sexist crap. My friend and I ended up hanging out for a little bit, just to make sure the guys weren't hanging around on a street corner. To this day, I'm still incredibly grateful for the guy and girl working there, because they were in complete understanding and totally worried about us. This happened to me earlier this year. It was around midnight and I was shopping around Walmart. I casually walked to the register to pay, and I was the third person in line. The first person had a full cart, and after the cashier finished ringing them up, the cashier had to change the cash drawer like they do every time it's midnight. So I was just standing there behind my cart when a man in his late 20s or early 30s gets in line behind me. He slowly started creeping closer and closer to me, and soon enough, his body was touching mine. I got really nervous quite quickly, and I had an idea that I should get gum so that I would be able to take a few steps out of line. I pretended to look at the gum, and then I looked at my cart, and the man had his hands inside of my cart. I politely said, "Excuse me, can you move?" He moved up a little, but it still wasn't enough for me to get back behind my cart, so I decided that instead I would just stand next to my cart because he was clearly violating my personal space. He started to talk to me, but I ignored him and acted like I didn't know that he was speaking to me. Eventually, he tapped my shoulder and then said, "I like your hair." I awkwardly said thanks, not really knowing what to do. Now, the cashier, who was a female, was just watching us talk while she was ringing me up. Then, the guy asked, "Do you like guys with green eyes?" At first, I couldn't hear him, so I asked, "What?" He then repeated his question, "Do you like guys with green eyes?" as he took off his cap and winked at me. I didn't answer his question, but instead gave him a look as if to say, "Leave me alone," and I turned back around to look at the cashier, and I saw that she could see that I was feeling uneasy. The guy then began talking about me and him and about going out. All I could say was, "Okay, whatever." I paid for my things, and as I was walking out the door, the guy yelled at me, "Bye, I miss you already. Maybe I'll see you soon, at a fancy restaurant or something." He said this as he had a creepy face. It freaked me out so much that my heart began racing. Once I was out of sight, I began running like hell, because I knew that he would be out here soon because he only had 3 things. I got to my car and threw my things in the vehicle as fast as possible. I hid in my car for a little bit because I didn't want the man to find me or my vehicle. I never really thought or expected that I would run away from a random person, especially in such a fast manner. This guy, however, genuinely scared me. When I first moved out of my parents' house and into my own apartment, I had a job at a bar, working late nights. When I got off work, it was about 4 a.m. and I was starving. I of course remembered that I had no groceries at home, so I stopped by Walmart to pick up a few things. The store was pretty deserted, which was good because I wanted to get my stuff with as little waiting and human interaction as possible. I was walking down the frozen food aisle, buying microwave dinners and stuff like that, when I noticed this weird guy staring at me. He was on the short side for a guy, and he was, for lack of a better term, crackhead skinny. He only had a small fringe of hair on a mostly bald head, and he was dressed in a weird manner. I mean, like food-stained tank tops with shorts that were way too big for him, and combat boots. I turned back to my shopping because people were always staring at me. After all, I was a goth girl in a small town in the deep south. I moved on to the next aisle and continued with my shopping. The guy followed me and continued to stare. I turned around to look at him and noticed that he wasn't shopping and that he had an empty cart and was just following me around the store. I gave him the stink eye and he smiled at me. He had 3 teeth and they were really nasty and rotting. Oh great, I thought. He was a meth head. I went to the soda aisle, which was all the way in the back. I figured that he would give up, but nope, he continued to follow me. Before I was slightly amused by this, but now I was beginning to get pissed off. I turned and asked him if he wanted anything. He told me that I was pretty and that he wanted my number. I told him that I had a boyfriend. I quickly started to the checkout counter and he followed me all the way there. He got in the same line behind me with his empty cart. The woman checking me out assumed that he was with me and said something about my dad shopping with me. I informed her that he was just some creepy guy that had been stalking me through the store. Her face was priceless, but his face was even better. I told both of them that if he followed me to my car, that I was going to pepper spray him and call the cops. I then got my stuff and began to walk towards my car. Luckily, for his own sake, he didn't dare to follow me.
Hey guys, I hope you liked the video, and I'm back, okay? I'm not dead. I know many of you probably thought I was, considering I haven't posted for something like a month and a half, and I'm really sorry about that, guys. It's just I've been incredibly busy with school and all these other things where I haven't had time to really record anything at all, especially since in my house, of course, there's always someone making noise or something, so there are never the right conditions for recording, except now that I'm on vacation, and so I can be here in the middle of the day when no one else is. So, thank you guys for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the video. Also, thank you guys definitely so much for the continued support and all the support that's been growing. And also, if you haven't already, please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're new. Also, follow me on Twitter or Facebook or any of that stuff to keep in touch and stay in the know. Also, if you guys want to check out a great channel on Twitch that live streams games like DayZ, Battlefield, and others, I recommend watching Handkerchief. So check out his channel by clicking the link in the description. Also, let me know what you guys want to see in the upcoming videos, especially by commenting down below. And if you have any of your own stories to share, please definitely submit them to wormystories@gmail.com. I'll see you guys in the next video, and please don't forget to subscribe to join the wormhole. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.